to work better, work more, yes? Let's keep work aside. I see that all of us are focused on work, but anything else beyond work as well. How does stress help you in your personal relationships? Any other way in which you think stress can help?
When you get support.
Right? When you get support,
Family support.
that feels better, yes? Yes. Right. So a common misconception, I wouldn't say that it's in the room over here, but generally speaking is that stress is only negative and stress is not good to have. But counter to that, what is important to know and remember is that stress is actually both good and bad. What we call eustress or distress. Distress is what we call negative stress and eustress is what we call positive stress. And just like with every other life emotion, for example, happiness and sadness, anger and pleasure, we also need distress as well as eustress to be able to balance and to function. When stress becomes excessive is when we would think that it needs support or help. So do you have any sense of when do you think it becomes excessive? Any indications of what do you think would alarm you that stress is becoming excessive? You can see bodily symptoms, yes? Okay.
Sleepless night.
Okay. You have sleepless nights, fatigue, loss of appetite. Okay, fine. All good, very good examples of how it can lead to negative impacts on one's health. So what's important to remember is that stress is good and bad, but when stress is excessive, constant, overwhelming, we need to think about ways in which we can get help and work with it better. Let me ask you a question, which is what do you think are common stressors for teachers? So for you and then your peers around you, what do you think are common sources of stress? And if I had to ask you about the top 3, what do you think it would be?
Completing tasks within the time frame.
Okay, so time limited tasks, yes. I just wanted to note that the cameras are also off over here. Don't worry. I think if as much as possible, let's try to have an open discussion about it because the more we interact, the better this session will be. So that's a good point about time related tasks. Any other stressors you feel teachers commonly experience? Unreasonable demands from parents. Okay, good point. Can you give us an example of that?
My child isn't doing well. What's the school doing about it?
Okay, so typically blaming the school when the child is not doing well. Great. Any other common stressor? We covered time-related demands. We covered when there is expectations from parents. Instead of expectations, I would say blame. Yeah, so blame from parents.
Discipline issue of students.
Discipline issues of students. Why do you think that might be stressful?
Because it can affect the school environment.
Right? Yeah. So when it becomes unmanageable, it can affect the classroom environment or the school environment. Let's look at whether these are the common stressors that are listed over here, and I can see a complete match. So we are on the same page. Some common stressors that are reported by teachers, not only in Goa but also in other parts of India, is of course issues around classroom management. So for example, disciplining the child in a classroom when the child is not behaving in a way which is conducive to the class ethos and environment. Workload is a point that has come up in a lot of your responses as well, when there are heavy workloads or very time limited workloads as well, when there are responsibilities over and above what you usually do, all of that can lead to stress. And a very important point around dealing with parental expectations. And I would add, apart from expectations, but also parental feelings and experiences in general as well, which might not be too easy for the teacher to manage. We very briefly spoke about what stress leads to. I'll leave this slide on so that you can get a glimpse into the different types of impacts of stress. I'm sure this is not new knowledge because all of us may have at some point of time experienced one or more of these. But it's important to note a few things over here. One is that stress doesn't only impact our physical health, but it also impacts our mental health, our cognition, and also our social health and relationships with people. The second important point to note also is that if we leave these symptoms for a long period of time without addressing them, and they get collected over time, they can become worse, and they may also lead to further worsening of the stress-related problem and lead to the development of further problems or mental health problems. So it's very important that we intervene early when we start noticing these symptoms and get help about it. We spoke about parent stress-related stressors for teachers. If you can tell me a bit more about common stressors that you see amongst children. What do you think are reasons why children today are getting stressed? Top 3 again, if we can focus on. Parental pressure, yes. Peer pressure, someone said yes. Competition with other kids in school, not only academics but also beyond academics, yes. Any other stressors that children experience? So having to conform to a set standard. There are 2 types of stress over there, right? Which is having to conform to it, and if you don't conform to it, then dealing with that as well. Let's see if this is what we have discussed. So of course, number 1 is school pressure. So pressure regarding academic performance, performance in sports, performance in studies, navigating peer relationships, which can be very difficult for young children when they get exposed to different kind of environment. Engaging in extracurricular activities over and above their regular school workload also might be stressful for them. Challenges with the family environment and dealing with very diverse contexts at home. For example, they may be subject to neglect, to parenting which is not positive, to issues around sibling comparison, etc. that you might most often see as well. And of course, the biggest, one of the biggest threats of today, which most people feel really impacts a young person's life, is technology, which is being exposed to technology, screen time, and having very little monitoring and supervision whilst they do so. Just for those of you who want to come in front, there are many more chairs being set up over here in case you would like to take a seat. I'd like to emphasize earlier, as I said earlier, about the symptoms of stress. Even with children, it's very important that we recognize these different impacts of stress and get help early on. With children, stress might manifest in different ways, but they also have very similar symptoms to what I had described earlier. So some example warning signs could be that a child might be stressed, could be. Any examples from your own time with children? When are some times where you feel that a child might be feeling very stressed? Not eating, yeah? Differences in sleep patterns, not sleeping well, or maybe sleeping too much. Any other examples that they might be stressed? Feeling agitated, yeah? Differences in their behaviors in the classroom, maybe a bit withdrawn as well from others. It's very important that we recognize these different impacts of stress in children, and even if we ourselves can't help them because we might have not enough time to help them, it's important that we then connect them with support systems that may either be available in the school or outside. How should we manage stress? So now we'll talk a bit more about the management of stress in our everyday life. So we'll first focus on children, and then we'll focus on all of you. So if you can tell me, what do you think are some effective ways in which you have managed stress in the past? In children, in your students. Any examples? Any effective ways in which you feel stress can be managed? Exercise, yeah. Sleep, meditation, appreciating a child, very good points. Taking out for a camp, so taking them outdoors.
Sometimes talking to them, only talking, listening to them.
Yeah, that's a very, very good distinction, Mitra. Can you just raise your hand who's made that point? Yes, thank you for that point. There's a very big difference between talking to them and listening to them. And what is most important is that at the very least we're able to provide them a year first. Any other point?
Breaking the monotony mid-session with a very unexpected activity, not designed for a classroom kind of a, that's what.
Right. So making it exciting for the child to engage in the classroom by breaking monotony and introducing activities that are child sensitive and what they enjoy in the classroom. So let's look at a few ways in which you can help promote stress management in schools. As Dr. Salkar had said earlier, this is just the beginning of stress management sessions that we're going to have, and hopefully in the future we're able to come together and think through what are some best ways in which we can really change how stress is managed in schools in Goa. So the first important thing in the role of a teacher that we could do is to collaborate with children and with parents to understand what are best ways in which they would like to deal with stress. Becoming more aware of that and ensuring that your own practice, your communication, your language, the way you speak is reflective of their preferences. The second is to promote early intervention. So instead of waiting for problems to arise and then to intervene with them, to plan for them in advance and decide what are you going to do to ensure that you prevent them. An example of promoting early intervention is to make young people more aware about stress and then to connect them with sources of support that can be of help to them. Also, it's important in the role of a teacher, which you already do, but just to remind ourselves, is to create very open communication channels with children and families. Because we do know that the school environment is one of the most important environments that children inhabit. And they are likely to feel comfortable with you and share with you things that are going on in their lives. So it's important that we create those open channels of communication between you, the child, and the family. And finally, if there are opportunities to educate both children as well as parents on learning to understand stress as well as managing stress in effective ways. Here are some few examples that we have already covered. For example, breaking monotony by introducing exciting activities, for example, creative expression or sport or physical activity. We know that helping young people learn coping skills, problem solving skills also helps them in the long term in managing their emotions. And also recognizing warning signs. So having a very good understanding of what are some warning signs in young people and picking up on them and knowing where to then send them if they need more help. Do you think anyone is missing over here? Do you feel we're missing out on any important, effective strategy? Something to think about. All right. We've spoken a lot about children and young people. I think it's also important as teachers, when we're talking about stress management for young people, we also talk about stress management for yourself. Because only if we are able to work on ourselves and help ourselves better, we'll be able to help people around us. So it's very important that we think about taking care of both our physical as well as mental health. And there are a number of ways in which we can do that. Again, you may already be doing a lot of it, but this is just a reminder of how we can perhaps introduce something different in your life. It's important that when you plan to take care of yourself, you do something that really means a lot to you and connects with what you feel is important for you. So for example, self-care for me might not be the same as self-care for Kedar. So it's important that you choose what works for you, because each of us have different problems. Some might have problems related to time, some related to money, some related to relationships. So we'll have to work out our own plans for self-care, which we think might work for us. And it's also important to remember that when we spend time on ourselves, it doesn't mean that we're being selfish. It just means that we're making ourselves better so that we're able to live better and then help other people around us better. So here is some few questions I'd like you to reflect on. You don't need to answer this now, but just questions for you to think of. I don't know whether you'd like to think of it on a Saturday night and Sunday full weekend, but if you would like, these are few questions for you to ponder on and to think about when it comes to stress management. Perhaps it might be a good idea to think about where you are in your life right now. What do you think is good stress? What is bad stress? Are you taking up too much? What do you think are reasons behind the stress that you're experiencing? The intention is that the more you recognize it, the better you'll be able to help yourself. So I'll just leave this on for a few more seconds in case any one of you want to just note down these questions. Here are a few more questions that I would like you to ask yourself. If you find that your responses to this are yes to many of it, then that's perhaps a sign that you might need to speak about the stress that you're experiencing. So this is not some fancy questionnaire that is diagnosing you. This is just a set of questions that may help you understand whether you are feeling excessively stressed or not. If your response is yes to many more of these, then perhaps it's a sign that you need to speak about it or think more about it. Here are some ways in which you can make a self-care routine for yourself. So identifying what are some activities that you find pleasurable, that you can give some time to. So for example, if it's exercise, not committing to I'm going to exercise thrice a week, but can you at least find 10 minutes a day or 10 minutes every other day to be able to become more physically active. So these are some ways in which people find helpful to take care of themselves. I would prompt you to look at these and think about, do any of these work for me? And if they do, then perhaps try one of these out from next week onwards. And here are a few more ways in which we can manage stress in our lives and in the school context. One is to, for ourselves, establish a consistent routine. Can any of you tell me why having a routine is important? Why do you think having a routine in your everyday life will help you in terms of managing stress? It helps with better time management, yes? Routine gives predictability as well, right? So the more predictable something becomes, the easier it might become to work with it. The second is also to maintain boundaries, to ensure that what you sign up for, you try to do that, complete that, and then take a break or take rest from that specific set of activities. That's again very helpful when it comes to ensuring that you take care of your own health, well-being, and your own needs. Taking breaks, taking good breaks is also important. Again, taking break is something that is not looked at very favorably, but it's very important that we spend time not only to ourselves, but taking a break with your family, with your friends, and anyone else who you might feel is supportive. At the classroom level, as I was saying earlier, it's important that we learn how to identify distress, and this is something that hopefully we will work more together on in the coming year as to what are some signs that you can pick up on that might tell you that someone might be feeling distressed. As I said earlier, promoting open communication not only with young people but also with the larger system in which they are, so for example parents and their siblings, and having very clear system of referrals. So thankfully, because of the government of Goa's school counselling program, we do have a referral system that's available in most schools in Goa where you can ensure that these kids get support that they might need for stress, any kind of stress related experiences. And other school level strategies could also be to come together and think about, as teachers, what are some priorities that you would like to work on. Whether you think you might benefit from mentorship, whether you think you might want to come together and focus on your wellness. These are some ways in which you can go ahead in terms of planning for better stress management in schools. Just last 2 points that I'd like to end with, that most often we think that if someone is feeling stressed, it means that they need help from a psychiatrist or a psychologist immediately. I would like to say that that is not the case. So it's very important that we first understand stress, and because we might not be able to diagnose it better because we're not trained to, it's important to share with people and to make them aware that if stress is constant, if it's overwhelming, if it's leading to changes in their lives, for example, they're behaving differently, they're not able to keep up to their relationship expectations, etc., then they might need help. So not everyone who experiences stress requires professional support. Some of those who experience stress require professional support, and we hope that with this collaborative efforts we're able to work together on helping us understand what requires help and what doesn't require immediate professional help. I would also like to leave all of you with a few resources that we have developed at Sangat. These are freely available and we'll be very happy to share them with you. On the top is an example of helping children deal with exam stress. We also have materials developed for teachers. We have materials developed for parents on managing difficult situations with children. All open access, and we'll be very happy to share it with you in the future. I will now stop and I'll hand it over to my colleague Kedar, who will then walk us through parenting skills.
Thank you. एक आम्ही आयलँड नावां बिवा सगळ्यांच्या वी हॅव सर्क्युलेटेड वन बुक. प्लीज रायट युअर नेम अँड क्रेडेन्शियल्स प्लीज. आणि एक आम्ही स्कॅन QR कोड दिला, तो स्कॅन करून तुम्ही मागे सुद्धा आन्सर केला जाता, पण ते आन्सर करताना हांगा मातशें लक्ष आसूं न्ही, पण ताजेर परत मोबायलाचेर. Okay, you can take over.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Thank you, Mitra, as well as Dr. Salkar and honorable members of the Directorate of Education, as well as the Indian Medical Association. It's a great honor to be speaking to this audience today, and I'm also very excited to see what the next year holds for all of us with this collaboration that we have planned, especially considering that, as we move through the academic year, as teachers would know, there are different challenges that students face at different points of time in the year. So hopefully in the future we'll be able to have more in-depth sessions and have more discussions on what else we can do to help kids who may be in difficult situations. So I'm here today to talk about parenting. My experience with parenting comes from two places. One is that I have been a child in the past, and secondly that I've had the positive opportunity of working with many parents as a counselor over the years. As you can see, there are three common definitions or three different ways that we understand parenting, which I have put up on the slide right now. The first is the process of caring for your child or children. The second is anything related to offspring, which are again children. And the third is a much longer one, which is promoting and supporting physical, emotional, social, spiritual and cognitive development of a child from infancy to adulthood. So I wanted to ask you, teachers here today, what do you feel about these three definitions? Are they all the same? Do we understand the same thing from each of them? If one parent behaves like the first one, and one parent behaves like the second one, and one parent behaves like the third one, would we see all three parents treating their children in the same way? Anyone? No? Why not? Sure, I'll try and zoom in. Let me see if that is possible. Okay, is this better? Yes, but thank you for your answer. Sir gave some very good points that the first option, if we see, is more about just taking care of the child. Just that the parent sees the role as just someone who has to take care of the child. The second parent sees this as something wherein everything related to the child has to be done by me. So not only taking care of the child, but helping the child to grow, helping the child to get to know others, making decisions for the child, right? Both of these can be understood in a positive as well as a negative way. The third option, which unfortunately is a little difficult to zoom into because I can only zoom into part of the screen, but what this talks about is the holistic development of the child. Right? Understanding all of the needs of the child, the various different things that a child needs in order to be parented, right? Physical, emotional, social, from when they are small to when they are adults. So if you as a teacher think back to the times where you have interacted with parents, you would have met some parents who think of just taking care of the children, making sure nothing happens to my child is safe, my child is okay. You would have met some parents who look at it like that. You would have met some parents who decide everything for the child. Whatever needs to be done for this child, whatever has to be taken care of, whatever the child has to go ahead and do, everything will be decided by me. Career will be decided by me, friends will be decided by me, food will be decided by me. And the third are the kind of parents that we are hoping you go back to, or that we are hoping that we all become someday. Are the kind of parents who support the child's development not only in the physical way or not only in the emotional way, but also their social development, their spiritual development, and not just that this is my child so I have to take care of it, but to create a person who hopefully can give back to society, to create a person who can be a full member of society as opposed to just the child of that particular parent. So there are 4 different styles of parenting that you come across when you look at the literature, or when we have looked at the literature. Authoritarian, authoritative, permissive, and uninvolved. Now, just to sort of give a brief overview, since today's session is something which we are looking at as a beginning of a larger series, I'll just take you all through in short what each of these mean. So the first is the kind of parent who I gave an example of earlier. The parent who says that you have to do what I want you to do or you can't do it. Right? If I want you to go here, this is what you got to do. My way or the highway, as we like to say. What do you think a child of such a parent would grow up to be like? If I grow up in a house where my parent tells me that you have to do what I am telling you to do and you can't do anything that you want to do. And if I don't do that, then I get punished. And the rules are very harsh. When I grow up as a person, what will be my strengths? What will be my weaknesses? Or how will I be as a person? Anyone? Dependent, alright, thank you. Anything else? Disciplined, yes, that's one way of looking at it. Turn out to be a rebel, yes. So all good answers here, and I think we'll be able to see some more ways in which we see kids who are independent or who are disciplined or who are rebellious in some of the later examples. One of the things that struck me when I was reading about these kind of parents is that they tend to make children who are good liars. Right? Because if you have a parent who's telling you that you have to do this, you have to come home at 7 o'clock and you can only meet these friends. You'll say, yes, Mama, I met that friend only. I didn't meet anyone else. I didn't go anywhere else. So as teachers, maybe we need to reflect when we see parents maybe at a PTA day or when we see them in any other situations and they are telling their kid in front of us that you have to do what the teacher is saying and you have no other option. We as teachers have the opportunity to understand that this may be this kind of parent, right? The kind of parent who is not giving the child the opportunity to decide. The kind of parent who is not allowing the child to be independent. And so, being disciplined will be something that that child has. But later on in life, you may find that these are the people who rebel or these are the people who are very good at lying. And often the main feeling that they may feel towards their parents is one of anger. Because they have been restricted for a very long time because of this kind of a parent. I'll skip the second one for now and come back to that. The third is a parent who is permissive. Permissive parent means a parent who is saying, you can do whatever you would like. Can I go here? Yes. Can I eat this? Yes. Can I have 5,000 rupees? Of course. So if we have a parent who is always permitting the child to do whatever the child wants to do, is allowing the child whatever he or she wants, what kind of difficulties or what kind of issues this person may come across later in life? Do you think when they grow up they will find that the real world is also like that? No, right? They may find that the life is not giving them the kind of response that they have got in their own house. Life is not as easy as they thought it would be. It may feel like many days are a struggle, right? There is a correlation between permissive parents and children who develop depression or anxiety later on in life. Because they have grown up in an environment where whatever they want is provided to them, and later on in life, as you all very well said, that doesn't happen. The last is the uninvolved parent. Now this is a subtle difference between a permissive parent and an uninvolved parent. A permissive parent is one who is allowing their child to do whatever their child wants. An uninvolved parent, hopefully you've not seen much of this, but there are parents who, if you may ask them, where is your child today? What is your child doing? In which standard your child is in? They may say, I don't know. Right?
I think this is the most important slide. सगळ्यात माझं कोकणीत आमच्या पट्ट्याला मागा की त्या कळ्यांच्या पट्ट्याचे बाउन्सर म्हणून वैसू होता आणि you have to identify
yes sir
which group you fall in. पडटलो मे बी परमिसिव्ह काय अनइन्वॉल्ड आय डोंट नो माय सन मे बी अनइन्वॉल्ड मोस्ट लायकली बिकॉज शी वॉज टेकिंग केअर ऑथॉरिटीयर म्हणजे डिक्टेटर बापूय ते भुरगे फुडें म्हणटा ते लायर जावंक शकता म्हणजे तो कितें बापायक बरें दिसूंक जाय म्हणून सांगतलो हरशी ताका ते करूंक ना ताणें काम खंय गेल्लो रे तो हरशी गेल्लो पिक्चराक ना म्हणटलो ते फ्रेंडा कडेन शिकूंक गेल्लो म्हणजे सुरवातीकूच फटिंगपणाचें एक हें जालें दुसरे ऑथॉरिटीने सांगूंक ना अजून परमिसिव्ह म्हणजे थोडे आमचे सारके आसता कितें कर रे ओके कर हें जाय तुका पयशे जाय घे पयशे एकूच चलो आसता एकूच चली आसता लोकांनी थिंकींग ओके करून आपणें करूंक ना कांय हें आपणें करूंक ना हें इम्पॉर्टंट पयलीं म्हाका कांय मेळूंक ना चल ताका तरी मेळूनी पूण ताका असो करून दवरता की तो फुडें ही बिकम्स डिप्रेशनाक वता कित्याक ताका समाजान कांय मेळना तें जे बापायन केल्लें आसा हें कर आवयन केल्लें आसा हा हें वच हें घे मोबायल घे सादो मोबायल सांगलो जाल्यार स्मार्टफोन हाडून दिलो तो मागता अशी खटारो डबो पूण तो म्हणटा ना हो घे बरो म्हणजे इट इज लायक परमिसिव्ह म्हणजे ते अशें थोडे अनइन्वॉल्ड आसता थोडे जे म्हजे सारके थोडे आसता केन्ना केन्ना आमी अनइन्वॉल्ड आसलो चलो 7वेन आहा काय 8वेन आहा तोय खबर नाशिल्लो सो ते चडूच आमी कामान घुस्पतात आनी भुरग्यां कडेन लक्ष दिवंक पावना पूण आमची मादाम आसा हांगा ती आसा म्हणून ते आमची भुरगीं मातशी वाडली आमी फक्त पयशे कमावंक गेले घरात तांणी बाबांनी पयशेय कमयले प्लस कामूय केलें घरांत केलें मल्टीटास्किंग बायल्यो पूण आमचें कशें आहा ते तकली ती अशी थोड्या भशेन वता So these are very important. I am quite sure you must identify in which category you be important. Now we'll come to authoritative.
Thank you, sir. Authoritative parents are the so-called ideal parents, right? The parents who are able to have a conversation with their child. If they are saying you can't do this, then they explain the reason why you can't do this. If you can't have this, then why can't you have it? If they are not allowing the child to do something, they are explaining to the child why they can't do something. And even if they ever upset their child, if they ever hurt their child, if because of any disciplinary issues the child is being scolded, they always try and come back later on to apologize or to create a positive relationship again. So we are hoping that if not by the end of today's lecture, but in general,
All should fall in this category.
yes, over time, yes, that is our goal.
हे आम्ही केन्ना केला काय म्हाका डावटूच मारता मातसो पण तापयलो जाल्यार तापयलो काय तोच बाबडो येतालो मागीर हळू डॅडी 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 करून किंवा चलयेक चड तापोवणी खावना चलयेन कित्याक चली अपुरबायचें आसता म्हणटकच बापाय कडसून चडशें खायना चलोच खातात नॉर्मली आनी आवय कडसून चली खातात दॅट इज नॉर्मल बिहेवियर आसता पण एक भुरगें आसता म्हणून ही सगळी प्रॉब्लेमां चड येता पयलीं आसतालीं 7-8 भुरगीं कळ्ळें न्ही व्हडले चली आहा तेच सगळे धाकटे भुरग्यांक आपल्या भावाक सांबाळटाले बट दिस इज इम्पॉर्टंट म्हणजे तुवें कितें रॉंग केलें जाल्यार ताका बसोवन ताजे बरोबर ताजे कडेन डिस्कस करप ताका सांगप बाबा हें बरोबर न्हय हें बरोबर किंवा ताणें कितें बरें केलें जाल्यार ताका व्हेरी गुड ताका मातसो कॉंग्रॅच्युलेशन केलें मीट हिम डिस्कस विथ हिम सो सीट विथ हिम एंड बेसिकली ताजे कडेन डिस्कशन दवर तुजें म्हणजे एक चॅनल ओपन दवर.
Thank you, sir. Should I go on?
Yeah.
So in each of these cases,
No, there is a demand that it should come in Konkani also.
understood, sir. My Konkani
I
is
had
not
no
so
other
good.
option but to do. This I got a call from the director.
Thank you, sir. Yeah. My Konkani is not so strong.
I know that's why I'm here. तांकां सगळ्यांक जागे केले काय ना आता दिल्ले आसतले थोडे.
Correct. So in each case, like we discussed in the first type, that in permissive as well as uninvolved parents, we may see that children later on develop some difficulties in life because of this kind of parent. So if we think of a child, like sir said, whose parent is telling them you can take whatever you want, you can have whatever you want. Like I said, later on in life they may find that the world is not like that. That is not the experience they are having. If you could tell me what physical health problem or mental health problem a person may have because their parent is telling them, yes, you can have whatever you want. Sorry? Undisciplined, okay. Not being able to discipline themselves.
Substance abuse.
Substance abuse, yes. So consumption related issues, right? Being not able to know that how much I should have. Obesity is also linked to these kind of parenting styles to be developed later on in life.
This is also very important. Obesity is कित्याक भुरग्याक म्हणटना आतां ते एक्झॅक्ट परतपणे म्हणलें हांगा आमी कांय खावना तांकां हॅमबर्गर खावनी तांकां ते कोका कोला घेवनी वन्स इन अ वायल इज ओके वन्स इन अ वायल हें सगळें करपाकूच जाय कित्याक तांकांय कळपाक जाय की कितें खावचें कितें न खावचें म्हणून पण तो म्हणटा तो सामको इम्पॉर्टंट की तांच्याकडे बसून ते सांगूंक जाय. हेल्थाच्या बाबतीन ऑल्सो, इन हेल्थ ऑल्सो इज इम्पॉर्टंट. आय एम क्वायट शुअर चल्यान म्हाका केन्ना आपल्याक कितें त्रास जाता म्हणून केन्ना सांगू ना. चलये सांगतालें कळ्ळें न्ही, आवय बापाय कडेन क्लोज मातशे चलयो आसता. पण हांव दोतोर म्हण ते एकाने सांगता आसतलें म्हाका दुखता, हांगा दुखता, थंय दुखता करून. पण मोस्ट ऑफ देम बापाय कडेन उलोवपाकूच भितात, कितें सांगपाकूच, हाव यू वील रिएक्ट काय म्हणून. सो दॅट इज व्हेरी इम्पॉर्टंट. यू मस्ट सीट विथ यू आनी आवय आनी बापायन मातशेंशें भुरग्याक जर थंय दिसता जाल्यार ते सांबाळून घेवपाची मातशी तांची हें डिस्कशन आसूंक जाय.
Thank you, sir. Lastly, for children of uninvolved parents, aside from what I mentioned with regards to depression or anxiety, those kind of children may also later on in life face issues in going to any system. So like we said, in school also, we may have parents of kids who don't know where the child is. Those children may find it difficult in school to get to know other children, to communicate, to develop a relationship, because their main relationship at home is one where the parents don't know where they are.
भुरग्यांक कशें घरा कडेन आवय बापूय तांचे कडेन म्हणजे अनइन्वॉल्ड जो आसा तो बाकीचे फ्रेंड्स करपाकूय मातसो अनइन्वॉल्ड आसता, कित्याक आवय बापूय तशें आसता म्हणून. आनी अनदर इम्पॉर्टंट पॉयंट वीच आय वॉन्ट टू ऑल्सो स्ट्रेस इज दॅट ताजे फुडलें कितें जातलें, म्हणजे तो कितें शिकपाक जाय तेंय तो घेवंक शकना पावर. तो आवय बापायचें सोपयता केन्ना तो म्हणटा आपल्याक की हें करूंक जाय, पूण आपूण हें जालो. पण इन द एंड आमची सिस्टमूच अशी एज्युकेशन आसा की एट द टायम ऑफ 17-18 वर्साचेर यू हॅव टू डिसायड वॉट यू वॉन्ट टू बी. इट्स व्हेरी डिफिकल्ट. हांव म्हणजे सांगता, म्हणजे चल्यान मेडिसीन केलें कळ्ळें न्ही, 8वो आयलो ऑल गोवाचेर मेडिसिनान गेलो. 2 वर्सांनी म्हणपाक लागलो आपल्याक मेडिसीन न्हय आपलें हें. हांव ताका विचारलें कित्याक घेतलें तुवें, हांवें फोर्स केल्लो तुका? ना म्हणपाक लागलो. तुजे कडेन पळयता कशें तूं मातसो तुका सगळें कशें मान दिता तो, पण आपल्याकूय दिसलें आपलें बरें म्हणलें. आतां सी दीस इज द प्रॉब्लेम. पण ताणें एक पॉयंट सांगलो. तो म्हळ्यार डॅडी म्हणपाक लागलो 18 वर्साचेर आय कॅनॉट डिसायड वॉट आय वॉन्ट टू बी बिकॉज आय हॅव नॉट सीन एनीथींग. तूं जसो हळू वाडटा न्ही तसो तुका दिसता की हांगा आपूण बरो आरजे जावंक शकता, आपूण बरो बरोवंक शकता, आपूण बरो उलोवंक शकता. आनी आयज पयलींच्या भशेन ना की बाबा देर इज ओन्ली डॉक्टर नाल्यार इंजिनियर नाल्यार टिचर नाल्यार फार्मासी जालें. नाव यू कॅन शायन इन एवरीथींग. स्पोर्ट्स ऑल्सो यू कॅन शायन. सो इट इज व्हेरी इम्पॉर्टंट दॅट दे हॅव टू रियलायज देर पोटेन्शियल. बट ते थोड्यांक मातशें ते लेट जाता कित्याक दे आर नॉट इन्वॉल्व विथ दॅट. सो हांगा म्हाका दिसता आवय बापायनी तांकां सांगप हे बाबा डिफरंट ऑप्शन्स आहा. नाव वी आर टेकिंग इवन कॅरियर गायडन्स. तुमचे कडेन खुबशे एज्युकेशन डिपार्टमेंट्स आर डुईंग दॅट. सो दॅट बाय 10थाकूच ताका कळटा की आपल्याक कितें करपाक. आनी तो मॅथ्स म्हणून एक सब्जेक्ट कोणें घालो तो खबर ना. ताका एक तुमी टिचरूच आहा सगळी म्हणून तो मॅथ्स जर एक सब्जेक्ट काडिना न्ही सगळे भुरगे आनंदान शिकतले आसता. ते आमी शिकून इतके पाड पडले शेवटी आता फक्त तो मॅथ्स म्हाका उपयोग आहा बाजारात वचून पैसे सारखे घेतले प्रत्येकाने ते पळोवपाक. सो इट इज व्हेरी इम्पॉर्टंट दॅट. पण दे हॅव ना ऑप्शन्स ऑफ लिव्हिंग मॅथ्स. पण पयली सुरवातीक ते खूप स्ट्रेस जाता. मॅथ्स इज अ व्हेरी डिफिकल्ट स्ट्रेस अँड पीपल गो थ्रू द बिग स्ट्रेस फॉर दॅट. सो पेरेंट्स कॅन गाईड देम एट दॅट टाइम.
Thank you, sir. So this was
thank you to you.
This was a look at different styles of parenting. What I wanted to say before moving ahead is that it's not necessary that any one parent will always be like this or always be like this or always be like any of these. At some point of time you may meet a parent who is very strict, but on other days they are allowing their child whatever they want. So what we as people who are working with parents, as teachers, as psychologists, as school counselors should be doing is trying to help parents to be the kind of parent that is able to balance all of these things. Now we'll look at a short video which shows how parents can sometimes make some assumptions about their children, but when the time comes they realize that maybe they understood incorrectly. Let me see how we can play this. Yes. I've embedded the video, yes. Not sure.
then I can talk for any amount. But I am quite sure I am not a very good parent. But what he says is, I fall in all those 4 categories. So that little bit of authoritarian, little bit of authoritative, little bit. I think, okay, not very bad parent as such. May not be a good husband, but may be a good parent. So it's very important that you have to talk. Issue is that having, you have to discuss with your children what they want to be, and actually you should ask the teacher also that what he is good in, because sometimes in the he is a very extempore good speaker, but बापाय आवय काय खबर नसता. So it is very important की आमच्या वेळा फक्त पास झालेल्या खुश असताली आवय सारखी, कळले. आता कशा 1 मार्क कमी पडलं तर तुका आणि कंपेअर विथ द शेजारी, दॅट इज द वर्स्ट पार्ट. तू 1 मार्क कमी पडला म्हणून काय नजो, पण ताका कशें चड पडले तुझ्यापेक्षा, हाजेर तुमकां चड डिस्कशन असतं. सो इट इज व्हेरी इम्पॉर्टंट. आमच्या वेळा कशें जालें, हेवटेनसून तेवटेन वचप, म्हणजे 7वेसून 8वेन गेलो खूब आवय तर सामकी खुश जातली. वल्लभ तर पास जालो म्हणजे ती खुश जातली. पयसून विचारतली कितके रे बाबा, कितवो नंबर, पास जालो, हे पास जालो, व्हेरी गुड. मागीर कितवो नंबर, मागीर तो असो दाखयता, म्हणजे 5. खुश जाली बाबडी. ना 5 नाही 10. मागीर म्हणलें आनी 5. मागीर म्हणलें आसूं न्ही, जालो मरे 5, हे पेडे घे आनी वाट चल. म्हणजे पास जालो सुद्दां हो तो एक सेलिब्रेशन आशिल्लें. जाल्यार तुजें. So it is very important that you should be satisfied with what your children does. पण ताका मातसो मदी एक हे करपाची गरज आसा की बाबा तू आनी बरें करू शकता, यू कॅन डू बेटर. आपल्या तुझ्या टिचरा कडेन डिस्कस केला, आय हॅव डिस्कस विथ यू हॅव गुड टॅलंट, ओनली यू आर नॉट पुटिंग इट इन द बेटर यूज. तो जर बरो खेळटा जाल्यार ताका आतां आमी पळयता, आमच्या वेळार फक्त अशी सेंचुरी मारली की बापूय बाबू ताळयो मारतालो. आता भुरगे सकाळी आपल्या स्कुटरीर घेवन तांकां ते किट घेवन फाटसून घेवन ट्रेनिंगाक व्हरतात, मागीर ताका परते हाडटात. So people also have realized, teachers have also realized, parents also have realized that there is you can earn money in sports also. So if you are good in sport,
yes sir.
Okay. घंटा मारून जाय.
All right, let's try and see if this short video can play for everyone to see.
ये है हमारे मोहन बाबू, जो कई दिनों के बाद शहर में मेहनत मशक्कत करके घर वापस लौट रहे हैं. और ये है उनके जिगर के टुकड़े. क्या कर रहा है? मुझे दे दो ना. बनाएगा ये, जिनकी एक हंसी के लिए ये कुछ भी कर सकते हैं.
अच्छा बताओ पापा क्या लाया आपके लिए?
क्या लाया पापा?
ये सुनीता रानी के लिए किचन सेट, विराट कोहली के लिए बैट और बॉल. खुश जाओ चलो.
ये लड्डू नहीं खाएगी और ये गुड्डू का. ओह सुनीता, तेरी बॉल ने मेरे लड्डू तोड़ दिए. सुनीता की बच्ची.
क्यों मोहन बाबू चौंक गए? जरा आंखें खोली, सब कुछ यही दिख जाएगा. हर बच्चा अपनी एक अनोखी पहचान और क्षमता के साथ जन्म लेता है. हुनर और शौक इंसान के लिंग के मोहताज नहीं. सही परवरिश वो है जिसमें बच्चों को, चाहे वो लड़का हो या लड़की, एक खुला आसमान में. फर्क लड़के लड़की का नहीं, फर्क है सोच का. आइए सोच बदलते हैं.
अमेझिंग व्हिडिओ. आय थिंक दिस इज द करेक्ट. आमकां सगळ्यांक खबर. आमकां एक आवय केन्ना ते स्टेटस्कोप हाडटाली. तिका तेन्ना खबर नाशिल्लें हांव दोतोर जातलो म्हणून. म्हाकाय खबर नाशिल्लें. पूण उमेद दोतोर जावचो म्हणून. आनी हांगा पळय ताणें चलयेक नॅचरली किचन हाडून दिलें सामान सगळें. आनी चल्याक तो एक्चुअली उरफाटें तांची आवड वेगळी आहा. अँड नाव अ गुड शेफ कॅन अर्न मोर दॅन अ गुड डॉक्टर ऑल्सो. कळ्ळें न्ही. सो दॅट यू हॅव टू अंडरस्टँड. बिकॉज एक जेवण बरो करपी न्ही आसत न्ही तुका खंयच मरण ना दोतोरा सारकें. गाडो सुद्दां घालें न्ही गर्दी पडटली. पीपल कॅन गो टू एनीवेअर टू हॅव गुड फूड. सो जर बरो करपी कोण आसा जाल्यार ही कॅन मिंट मनी.
So as we saw in this video, like sir said, that parents should be aware of the fact that what their children actually want. And like Urvita earlier said, that listening is very important, and someone in the audience also said that only if you listen, or only if parents listen to their children and actually understand what they want, can they have that kind of an equation, can they have that kind of relationship where they are able to fulfill their needs. So here in the video we saw that the father assumed that the need of the boy is to play cricket and the need of the girl is to play with the kitchen set. But what we are trying to say through today's session, and as we can see going ahead, is that it's very important for parents to be able to have that open communication, to not have a style of what I want you to do is what you will do, but to understand what the kids actually want in order to be better parents and hopefully better people. So I'll zoom in. So these are some of this slide is about do's and don'ts for what parents should do and should not do. And this was made in the hope that this can be easy to use on a day-to-day basis in the school when you're speaking to parents, or in the college, wherever you may be. So the first suggestion is to encourage parents to have an active involvement in their child's life. Active involvement means that not just that the child is going to school and the parent is paying the fees, or the child is going for tuition, or the child is meeting the friends and the parent is taking care of the financial aspect, or picking up and dropping, but actually knowing and caring about what is your child doing, right? What does he or she like to do? Who are they meeting? Why are they meeting them? What do they enjoy in spending time with their friends? These kind of points are very relevant for parents to actually make a relationship with their children. Like we are saying in today's event, that we want to create a mitrata, right? We want to create a friendship between the parent and the child. And that can only happen when this first step is followed. The second is foster a supportive and loving environment. What that means, I can ask you all actually. What does it mean? Fostering and loving environment, Manji?
भुरग्यांच्या समोर झगडू नका.
That's one part. Yes, yes. But not only that, what else? Fostering and loving. What that means is that children are going to make mistakes, right? Even we as adults, we make mistakes. So it's important for parents to know that if the child makes a mistake, that doesn't mean that everything is over, that everything is finished, right? That they have to scold the child or they have to hurt the child in a way that they learn from that mistake. There are many ways that a child can be explained their mistake and that they can be helped to not do it next time. That is what we mean when we say have a supportive and loving environment. That not only to punish the child if there is a mistake, but to support them so that they do better next time. Third is prioritize open communication. So like we've been saying today, like Urvita also mentioned, that it's important between parents and children, between teachers and children, that the communication is both ways. It's not only the teacher that is talking to the child, it's not only the parent that is talking to the child. But listening is in fact not equally important, I would say it's more important, right? So that a teacher or a parent can actually understand the child. Listening is probably the first step to creating a relationship where the children are not having the difficulties that I have been talking about today. And last is model positive behaviors. To give you all an example, I think sir from the director had said that the parent is saying to the child that don't steal the pen from school, I will steal the pen and give you, right? So when the child is shown an example of a parent who is behaving in a way which is wrong, will the child know what is right? Yes? No? The child will follow what the parent is doing. So if the parent's behaviors are in a way wrong, or are breaking the signal, or are not following the rules, but are telling the child, no, you have to follow all the rules. You have to listen to what your teacher says, but I will go late for my work. Will the child learn? So that is what we are trying to say.
This is very important point. की भुरगीं आपल्या आवय बापायचे कॉन्स्टंट पळयत असतात, टीचर, आवय बापाय. आणि I felt that टीचरांच्या सायडीन also, I think the picnic is the worst day. Because पिकनिके दिसा टीचरय मातशें अशें आनी केन्ना सिगरेटूय ओडटा अशें. कळ्ळें तांकां दिसता आयज मातशें पिकनीक न्हय चल करुया. चिल्ड्रन आर वॉचिंग. ते म्हणटा इफ माय टीचर कॅन डू इट वाय आय कॅन डू इट. तशेंच घरा कडेन पेरंट, तूं सिगरेट ओडटा, तुवें ताका सांगा बाजारान वच रे आनी एक फस्ट हें घेवन यो, एक सिगरेट पाकीट घेवन यो. It's also wrong. So it's very important. What point is there that what you preach also you
should
expect
practice.
by children to preach. आणि आमचे जे worst was that we used to throw खंय खाल्ले चॉकलेट की भायर उडोवपाची संवय आशिल्ली पयलीं आमकां. म्हाका कोणें सुदारयलो? ड्रायव्हरान म्हज्या. ड्रायव्हरान सांगलें तूं ते भायर कित्याक उडयता? हांगा पावसान दवर, घरा कडेन मागीर थंय उडोवया भायर. See, it is very important. He was watching. आमी आपले नॉर्मली ते खाल्ले टाकून एक नॉर्मल आमची संवय आमची तशी गेली. But now it doesn't happen. You can make out my children. Not kept it. One more chocolate is left. But I said, Magir Kata. So it's very important. You don't underestimate the power of a child.
And the child's observation.
Observation power खूपच बरी असता भुरग्यांची. तेन्ना तरी मागीर ती मातशी हालता हेवटेन तेवटेन.
So that was what we recommend, or what are do's for parents, or what we think teachers should be talking to parents to do. These are some of the things, that we expect or that we recommend as don'ts, or to avoid, right? Avoid excessive control or overprotection. So like we said in the beginning, right, a parent who is keeping a very tight control on the child, not allowing the child to do what the child wants, or always protecting the child, preventing anything negative from happening to the child. If the child falls, small scratch comes, arey, 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 arey. So every single section or every single session of the child's life is being taken care of by the parent. So like I said earlier, when this happens, especially from childhood onwards, children tend to either have issues relating to substance, like we discussed. They may have issues relating to obesity. They may find that the world is not the kind of place that is as protected as they were growing up. Or if there is too much of control, then they may end being someone who, like ma'am said, can be rebellious. They can be people who are more comfortable with lying, or they may have issues relating to anger.
This is also very important. चड भुरग्याचेर कंट्रोल दवरूं नाका. चड ओवर प्रोटेक्शन. हे आतां कशें आसा, भुरगो पडलो न्हय जाल्यार रोखडोच ताका दोतोरा कडेन व्हरतले. आमच्या वेळार मागीर 4दा पडूनय मातसो शिकतलो म्हणून कळ्ळें न्ही. एक 2दा पडलो, खर्चटलें, बेडीन मातशें लायलें. Now this has happened maybe because you have only one child, one daughter, one son. जाल्यार तें चड ओवर प्रोटेक्टिव्ह नेशन जाता. So you must go for at least 2 children. At least 2. एक ना, 2 जाय. कित्याक then he learns what is sharing, what is caring, कळ्ळें न्ही. आनी भाव आनी भयण आसलो, हे सगळ्यांच्या हातान ना तें, पण भाव आनी भयण आसलो जाल्यार सगळ्यान बेस्ट कॉम्बिनेशन. Because he sees his sister growing, ती आपले चलो भावाक पळयता वाडटा कसो तो. So it is a very important that sharing, caring हे ल्हानपणापासून शिकतात ती. सपोज हाडले कितें एक एप्पल हाडले बापायन जाल्यार ते बाबा अर्दे करून तूं अर्दे खा, हांव अर्दे खाता. एकटोच आहा तो मुसळ आहा जाल्यार तो म्हणटा हे सगळें म्हजेंच, बापूय आलो म्हणटा हे सगळें म्हजेंच आहा, कित्याक कोणी काम करुया. So it's very important to realize that overprotective and excessive control is not good.
Similarly, harsh discipline methods are not recommended. So like sir said in the beginning, corporal punishment is banned, right? We do not expect parents or teachers in today's day and age to be using any harsh methods to teach children how to be disciplined or how to adhere to rules. And the reason for that is again similar to the first point, that a child who is learning through that method may have issues later on in life relating to how they feel when they make a mistake. If you've been hurt since you were a child when you make a mistake, when you grow up you may be very afraid to make one. I'll just move on to the last point, which is that parents should not have unrealistic expectations. We see a lot in our society that parents believe that their children will do what they had hoped or dreamt of doing, right? If I wanted to be a football player or a cricket player, I hope that my child does that. Even if my child may not want to go for the class, they may not want to go for the coaching, I will tell them, no, you have to go every day, you have to wake up at 5 o'clock every morning, be at coaching at 6 o'clock in the morning, and practice the entire day. what happens when you set these expectations is that as a parent, I cannot do this, right? It's not something which I will find easy to do. But I'm making my child believe that this is what I have to do to move on in life. This is what I have to do to succeed in life. So it creates an incorrect impression. It creates a very pressurizing situation for the child, and that's why we ask parents to avoid setting expectations that cannot ever be fulfilled by the child, probably because even the parent can't fulfill those kind of expectations.
So this is also a very important point की भुरग्यांनी कितें जावचें आपूण जावना आपल्याक म्हाका बाबा क्रिकेट खेळपाची उमेद आशिल्ली हांव जावना म्हणून म्हाज्या चल्याक फोर्स करप कोचिंगाक वच हें कर तें कर म्हज्या वेळार हें नाशिल्लें तें नाशिल्लें आतां तुका सगळें मेळटा तरी तूं खेळ मातसो करून अनरियलिस्टीक सो एक्चुअली यू शूड नो बाय एक 17-18 वर्सां की आपल्या चल्याची आवड कितें आसा कितकें जर आमकां कळना जाल्यार आय डोंट थिंक वी आर मे नॉट बी अ गुड फादर एंड गुड पेरंट यू मस्ट अंडरस्टँड ताची खंय लक्ष आसा खंय कितें करता इवन ताची फ्रेंड सर्कल कोण तो खंय वता कितें वता दिस इज अ व्हेरी इम्पॉर्टंट यू हॅव टू कीप दॅट यू मे नॉट बी पूण शेजारी तुका कंप्लेंट करूंक लागले की बाबा तुजो भुरगो असो मारता हें करता देन तुमी शेजाऱ्या कडेन झगडटात त्यापेक्षा परत परत कंप्लेंट येवप भुरग्याचे यू हॅव टू टेक इट व्हेरी सिरियसली टीचर सांगता ते सदां आयकूंक जाय बिकॉज दे सी युअर चायल्ड एज अ देर चायल्ड ओनली सो इट्स व्हेरी इम्पॉर्टंट फॉर पेरंट्सांक सगळ्यांक हें एक अंडरस्टँड जावंक जाय आपल्या चल्याची कितें एक्सपेक्टेशन आहा ताजे कडसून स्वता कडसून आनी ताका जो मातसो पुश दिवपाची गरज आसा.
The last thing that I'll cover before my colleague Pranali speaks is that, as you know, we come from an organization that works with mental health, right? So our goal today of engaging you is not only for you to manage your own stress or for you to see how people should be good parents, but to talk specifically about what happens if a parent is not taking care of themselves to the child, or what happens to the child if the home environment is not good, right? The health of the parent has a direct connection with the health of the child. If a parent is in good health, if the parent's mental health is good, if the parent is practicing the stress management that we have spoken about, then the child is much more likely to have less health issues. The child is much more likely to have less tension and less stress. Secondly, what we may have spoken about today or what research we may find online is one part of it. But we have specific guidelines, specific recommendations that are given by UNICEF for India. I won't go into detail right now due to lack of time, but you all can search about this online and we can provide you the resource after the session as well. There are 16 suggestions for how parents in India should be taking care of their child. And it covers a lot of what I have said today about communication, treating your child with respect, being able to have good realistic expectations for your child, and so on. And lastly, again, like we said earlier, if you as a teacher or as a parent, or indeed you observe in children around you any stress related symptoms, any symptoms related to tension, difficulties around taking care of themselves, there is no shame in seeking professional help, either for yourself or for the parent or for the child. There is Sangat's helpline that I'll show you later on. The number is provided on the screen. And we have a clinic in Sukur. There is also mental health services being provided in every PHC in Goa through our programs with the Directorate of Health Services. So I strongly urge each and every member of you, if you ever feel like your mental health is having or giving you some difficulties, or you notice in parents around you or children around you, there is help available. And if the situation cannot be managed with the tips that we have suggested today, you can and should always go and get help from a professional.
Very nice. Thank you very much.